So today we have Adam Clark of Tangible Solutions with us. Thank you so much for joining us, Adam.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you. I'm excited to be
Absolutely.
here.
Excited to have you. And of course, want to learn about your journey. So if you can kind of just go into that, maybe even just a couple of things that just really kind of took who you were, your career into a different direction, obviously, then ended up with Tangible Solutions.
Sure. Yeah. I think it all started when I was exiting the Army, trying to figure out what the
Okay.
heck I was going to do with my life. Went from barrel chest freedom fighter to promotional item salesman, selling pens and scrunchy balls and, to try to get people to put their logos on it and buy that from me. So that was a kind of a humbling experience to just kind of go from that to really trying to grind, go door to door, and get kicked out of places and whatnot. And then I ended up trying to sell pens to a defense company, and I had used their technology. They hired me up there. I started to learn a little bit more how business actually works versus looking in and thinking like how it works. And that's where I met Chris as my business partner. We started. We got a couple of machines in a garage, and we were using our lunch breaks while we were working for the company to try to go around town and sell our wares or make cold calls in a back conference room that they let us have. And then that's kind of how we evolved from that, got out of there and built where we're at today. We've got about 25,000 square feet, 11 3D printers, and probably on track to print, close to 60,000 implants this year. And it kind of all started with Focus a couple of years ago, and it's been really a wild ride to try to take a new technology, additive manufacturing or 3D printing, apply it to a niche and have some success, especially in a high regulation industry such as implants, and being able to work with the FDA, the nuances of that. It's been its own little interesting journey, but high level, that's where we're at.
Absolutely. Definitely some different routes that you took in order to get to where you are today.
Oh, for sure. It's kind of like old school, like cold calling and whatnot. Campaigning of trying to get the word out of who we are and what we do, and making sure that we can continue to recruit people, get the word out of who we are and what we do, and trying to work with others to be a little bit different. When you're selling what we're doing here, it's not mainstream. It's not like we're a traditional manufacturing company that has been established with the technology that's been established. We're a brand new company with a brand new technology, trying to sell it into an industry that likes things a certain way and has to have it has to have proof that it works.
Right.
People aren't just going to buy off on it. So there was a lot of barriers and frontiers that needed to be explored for us to have success, and that came with a lot of pain. But anything worth anything comes with a fight, and it's kind of what we kept telling ourselves, to stay in it, so we didn't lose our minds, as we went through this whole endeavor. But
So you kind of mentioned obviously your journey and how everything came together, but I'm curious, what was the decision like as far as implants specifically and exactly what you do?
There was a night when Charlie came home and he had a small printed like titanium piece. And I remember holding that up to the light and being like, dude, we 3D printed this. This is insane. And we didn't know it at the time, but that was like pretty powerful for us. But what we had done was evolved from going door to door, just trying to ring and the cold call. And we started to host breakfast briefings, and we had folks come to us, and we would host a breakfast and talk, spread the gospel of additive manufacturing. And we had medical folks keep coming. And so we started to look at that and be like, why do we keep having these folks show up? And we started to speak with them. They had viable projects that really aligned with the state of the technology of where it was, where the market was, and kind of uncovered this little niche for ourselves. And then they, I had a customer come and say, hey, would you be a contract manufacturer for us? Print these in high volume. And we're like, oh, great. So we had a business case, we had a customer, went to the bank. And even at that time, we were still spread out all over the place. We were still servicing aerospace, defense, doing some other customers or other industries. And, we just really started to hone in on the market, and we realized that we needed more than just to be able to make parts. We had to have the regulatory side. We had to have some of the nuances of cleaning, some of the downstream operations. And as we started to build this ecosystem of a business
in our minds, we realized that we couldn't be everything to everybody. And I think,
Right.
everyone hears that, but when you feel that
Mm-hmm.
and you're messing projects up for this customer and that customer, and you really look at your customer base and say, who's the most important here? And I don't want to, like, we cannot screw up with these folks. And it was like our medical people. And we had a board member challenge us and say, hey, what are you guys? Are you just a job shop, or are you a manufacturer? Like, what are you? And so Chris and I, my business partners, really sat down and like, I gave us an identity of a contract manufacturer, 3D printed titanium orthopedic implant. And we got really specific because there's so much there. I don't think people really realize how much knowledge there is in a niche.
Right.
You can go really deep and become an expert in that, and it takes time, but it can happen faster if you're not spread out all over the
Looking at everything else, right?
Yeah, like if we had to become experts in aerospace regulatory and at the same time become experts in medical regulatory, what we were doing that we were failing. And so then we just put all energy into this. And then that allowed us to recruit from this industry who had knowledge about this stuff. And so that allowed us to really, accelerate our focus and our growth, was because we actually trimmed things down a little bit. So made it a lot easier to balance.
Absolutely. So there's definitely a benefit that sometimes, money wise, it seems like you want to take on all the clients and do everything, but really in the long run, it can just be more beneficial to just narrow down, like you said, become experts and get that deeper knowledge in one niche area.
Absolutely. Even people who, clean out gutters, it's like, don't take on, lawn mowing, just clean out gutters, just focus on that, because that's a whole nother bit of equipment that you have to buy, people that you have to buy, you have to do that. You're spread all over. It's seasonal. It's this, like, just focus on what you're good at. And we're the titanium guys in our industry. People know we really, people come to us and know, like, we're a small outfit, but comparatively to our competitors, but we get the job done and we're really good at it. And because this is all we do, there's a lot of times we say no, even to our own customers, like, hey, can you print this? What about this material? Like, no, we are contract manufacturer, 3D printed titanium orthopedic implants.
This is what we do.
That's what we do. I told you that.
Right. So tell us about how you want to build awareness around manufacturing.
Yeah. So when we started going door to door, we just noticed that Dayton was a sleepy town. And I combined that with my own experiences of getting out of the Army. The company I worked for, part of my job was to drive around and find warehouses or factories that we could refurbish Humvees that were coming back from theater. And I just found that there was a ton of manufacturing facilities sitting vacant, freshly closed. And it hurt. I was still kind of in this weird identity crisis mode, coming from military to civilian life. And it was really sad to me to just, having known people that didn't come home, and those that did, that were struggling, and just that whole, that there's that whole culture, and to see manufacturing like gone, because I think there's a lot of power to be held in manufacturing, or influence, not power, the influence, putting people to work, having, putting their hands on things that sell products that go out. I think there's a lot of influence there, and there was just none of that. And so when we came to Dayton, we saw this town, or not came to, we started walking the streets. It was just like, man, everyone's sleepy. Everyone's got hit in the teeth from the automotive days. And we really wanted to build a company that would make our hometown proud and kind of show the world that, Dayton is still a premier spot to go for manufacturing in general. And we kind of wanted to add our little bit to that, be a precision manufacturer, a couple of folks that were just kind of coming up, trying to make their way, and showed like, this can be done in Dayton again. Like, there's no reason to be sad anymore. Like, we have to work hard to make our town known again. Like, we still kind of say it too. Like, we want Dayton to be the Silicon Valley of manufacturing. Like, we want it to be strong. It used to be known, and the town of 10,000 factories, because they're everywhere, but they're all skeletons now. And it's just kind of sad. So we want to just do our part, even if it's an inch, to just move it forward and create an organization that hopefully outlives us all. So I will warn you, my children might bust in here right now. I just saw one of them zipping across the floor. So
no problem.
Snow days, all that good stuff. So.
Absolutely. And I kind of want to jump into that, actually, about kind of your personal side and everything you just mentioned, as far as kind of the identity crisis going from the Army into civilian. What were some things that you did to make that transition, like just mentally and everything as well? What were some maybe techniques or tactics that you used to go through that transition.
For sure. I think when finding that, I did a lot of, you start with Google. I think a lot of us start with Google these days, I was joking with someone earlier, and I Googled once how to be a CEO. I had no idea. Like, how do you do this? But as you kind of search and try to figure this stuff out, because you start to feel it inside, very unbalanced. There's a point where I was just really unhealthy. I wasn't eating right, wasn't running, I wasn't doing the things that I love to do. I didn't feel like I was having enough time with my children, and I had to work a balance. I had to take some time off, and I started with my physical, like body, like how I felt, because everyone really feeds off the leaders in the organization, especially here, because it's still small. We're still grassroots, there's still a lot of energy that I could bring to it. But I was just tired. I was tired. And so I changed my eating habits. I really did some research on what do I need to do to get healthy? And I started working out, and we got a little homemade gym here at the shop. And it was weird at first to start working out while, I'm working out at lunch, people are working. It was just kind of should I be doing this? But I started to see people follow that lead. We had some guys quit smoking. We had some people start working out, and then we started a lunchtime workout group. And it was a nice release for me to just pump some iron, release the stress, and then go back to work in the afternoon. And it allowed me to get that workout in. So when I got home, I would take a moment, take a breath. And I think a lot of people do not have significant respect for ponderance. And I didn't. I still lose it from time to time, but just sitting alone with yourself and putting that phone away. And, because I think the phones, the dings, that has really been a detriment to our society.
Yes.
But I think as leaders, if you're in a leadership position, you cannot be distracted. And you have to kind of come within yourself and get a little quieter, do a lot more listening. And I think if you can find that meditative space, really meditate, or, that yoga, getting into yourself, into your heart. And, because I think you can lose emotion when you're off balance. You can get angry, you can get sad, and it's not the response that you want to be giving to someone else, or the reaction that you want to be giving to someone else. So there is a lot of due diligence that one should put into themselves. How are they feeling? Where do they want to go? And you can't really know where you want to go if you don't take the time to sit down and listen to your head and let it all clear out. However that is. For me, it is meditation and yoga and running and working out. It's those things for me. Some it might be journaling or something, but you have to have an outlet where you can really think about things and take that time and not feel guilty about it. You can't feel good because they're all counting on you.
Right.
To lead them. They're joining you, and you've got to be able to have that energy and that clarity to get there in your own mind. But then you have to take it a step further and say, I got to have clarity for them to communicate this out so they know where we're all going. And it takes more brain power than we realize to do that. And that's okay. We just have to be okay with that. I wasn't I'm sitting here in silence. What? Oh, it's been 2 minutes. But you got to take that time. And it can because I read an article about how Steve Jobs would do it. Just 2 minutes. Start with 2. And then you over time you get to 5. And that's hard to sit there and do that when you're first starting out. But then now that I've been able to have, and it's a practice, it's not something that you're just yep, I do it all the time. It's a practice. It's a lifelong practice, and taking joy in that. I think is probably really important. Your mental state, as people got to stay in check with that.
And I think it's so important what you said as far as being an example as a leader, that it's not only okay, but it's important to try to search those other parts of yourself. You're not trying to just build yourself as a worker or a business person. It's the other parts too. And like you said, once you started going to the gym, doing these things, other people follow, and you're showing
they do.
Yes, you need to be taking care of yourself in other ways. You're not just here to work. There's other parts of you. You're a human.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we really encourage people. We do quarterly meetings now. We used to do month to month, but we've really encouraged people to take their vacation, take it all, take it, and we have a use or lose policy anyway, but that's kind of from the early days of just being young and not being able to build that up and pay someone out or something if they left. But I want them to take, because we were getting burnt out and we were losing the advantage to continue to grow. You know, it was just like, oh, kind of coming in here, like, this should be fun. We should be just having a great old time. And if you're not having a good time, they're not having a good time. And they're following your vibe. And if you're not in check with what your vibe is, you know, they're gonna kind of just follow that. This isn't their endeavor. This is your endeavor. Like, they're kind of joining you. They may have their own endeavor in life. And hopefully what they can learn from you. But like, we wanted people to be well rested for when those times came that we do need you on point, you're ready. And it's okay that we got to work a few extra hours. You know, you've got to maintain that balance between, you know, your life, your family. Like, that is what is important. That's why we work.
Right.
You know, we don't work for this, like, we work for our family. And I think if you lose that side of things, like, they're not just over here while you do your thing. Like, they are why you do your thing. And so, like, you know, if you're not given to that, it's going to frustrate you at home, and then it's going to show at work. And it's shown with me, you know, some of our managers, you know, sitting down like, hey, I know this experience, I went through it. You lose your computer privileges for the next weekend. I saw you were in here on Saturday. You need to go home and not
Right. And so obviously, like you said, you're kind of trying to bring the culture back to Dayton. And then, of course, you seem like you have a good company culture. So where can our listeners go for more information about Tangible Solutions, or just to connect and learn more about you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're active on LinkedIn. A lot of our employees are active on LinkedIn. We try to, you know, push that out there. It's free. So we like to utilize that. That's the biggest area. And then our website, we are coming out with a new one. So I'm excited to, you know, throw that out there, but www.tangiblesolutions3d.com.
Wonderful. Adam Clark, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of that. We appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.